Hey everybody, Jim back here again, Razors and Rods Automotive Media. We're out here today in Sarasota with our friend Henry. We've seen this car a few times. We've seen it at some shows. We're lucky enough to have him here in a very quiet environment here at his shop. We're going to tell you about the car. It's a 1957 Chevrolet. It's a Black Widow replica, which ran in NASCAR. And he's going to tell you about it. You're not going to believe everything about this car. It is the one in the nation, probably in the world, well, of course in the world, the most accurate representation of this type of car. So you're going to be interested to see this. He told me when we came out here, we'll have some surprises. You're going to see some surprises in this video. Not going to tell you what they are, but you need to stay tuned. You need to watch the rest of this. He had a lot more cars than I thought he had. He had some very interesting things. We've shot a bunch of those, and we're going to tell you about those in a minute. So stay tuned. We'll see you at the next show.
All right, we're standing here in front of my pride and joy. My practically whole life has gone into making this happen. This started out as a utility sedan, which all of the Black Widows were in the beginning. A friend of mine had acquired this car here in Sarasota more than 30 years ago and brought it to my shop and said he's gonna take that 6-cylinder out and put a big 427, but doing that he had to chop the firewall and do some modification. I said we cannot have that, so I ended up talking him out of the car. and I had already had some information about this Black Widow car that was done in '57. I said, now this would be the car. Researched the source of where the car came from, and come to find out it basically come from the same source as the 6 cars that were modified through Nolly Chevrolet in Atlanta, Georgia. So that part was right, and then next 25-30 years were spent hunting down parts, the specialty NASCAR parts that they used on those cars, which were very few and far between. And when I did find something that pertained to that project, it hurt, financially, because the people, they knew how rare it was.
Are any of the 6 originals left at all? Not at all.
And we verified that through Rex. He said they got wrecked, and after Chevrolet they dumped them as being illegal as fuel injected cars. Chevrolet had no use for them, so they were offered to the drivers with a bill of sale and $1 to make it official, or the other option was to destroy them.
Okay.
And that's why there aren't any. But with me starting on the end of finding the parts rather than concentrating on the cars, I was able to obtain all the parts. The last difficult parts were the wheels. They were Kelsey Hayes wheels. They were made from 57 and up to early 60s, 6 lugs, 6 inches wide and 15-inch wheels, and they were used for special applications. They were called heavy-duty passenger car wheels. Come to find out, they were probably used on 8-door airport limo cars because they were available through special parts. We found them in Arizona in a junkyard. And that was the final hard part. So with that, I picked number 44 only because that's the year I was born. That was just a fluke thing. And come to find out, 44 driver was the only one that was still with us. All the other has passed. So once we got a hold of Rex, and he asked me a lot of questions, he wanted to make sure that this was all the right part to begin with. And once he found out that it came from the right source, it was had the big frame under it, which they said they had, and all those things, he said, now anything you need to know, you can call me. You can call me in the middle of the night.
So how old was he at the time, do you think?
He was 89.
Okay, wow.
But he's been extremely helpful throughout.
So without him, this probably would never have happened, just because I know you've told me when we've walked around it in the past, and we'll see here in a minute, the detail that he was able to tell you about how the car was built and what was in it. Like you said, am I correct? There is no other one like this.
There's none. There's absolutely none. And there are things that nobody would have known about these Black Widow cars except somebody that was directly involved and the Rex was actually part of building these cars. He's got a job with Southern Engineering building them before he became a driver, and he was so intrigued with what they were doing with these cars. He said to his foreman, "Now, what do you think would be the chances of me getting the job driving this?" And he said, "Well, I'll put in a word for you." He was an amateur driver,
Okay.
race car driver at the time, so he got hired for $250 a month driving it, and he was making $250 a month building it. So he said, "I was the king of the world."
Right.
Yeah, I was making
Well, the
money.
thing that I find interesting that you were telling me about these, obviously knowing NASCAR a little bit, back in the 50s, these were street cars.
Yeah.
So everybody I know asks you about the bumpers, all of the chrome on it. These were street cars that were converted to race cars, and everything had to be on it because it had to be like the car that you could go down to the Chevrolet dealership and buy.
Right. And the only thing you were allowed to change that pertained to safety. So moving the headlights and the trim around the headlights was considered a safety feature. That,
All right, take the glass out, sure.
Yes, if you tap the car in front of you and the glass breaks and the frame drops on the track, that could be a flat tire for the next car, and therefore there was a safety feature. These special.
I was going to say, I know people always ask you about why you have a car and why it has bungee cords on it, but
and then some people even say, well, they didn't even make bungee cords, but incidentally, these are not what you would call bungee cord. They're aviation shock cord. They were used on small planes like Piper Cup as a part of the landing gear, dampening the blow of the landing gear as they land it and give it. And they have a decade markings. These markings indicate the decade that they were manufactured. So Rex made it clear that when you get that bungee cord, make sure it's got the black markings on it, because that's the 50s.
So they were raced like that. That's just so the hood wouldn't come up. If the hood came unlatched or you bumped a car or something, the hood wouldn't come up in your face.
It took a very little bump to make that hood fly open, and of course, that's the end of the race for you. and things, when he told us about a firewall that
why don't we go around the side here and you can show us some more about this. There's some really interesting.
He mentioned, well, those cars, they have firewalls in them. I said, we did not do anything to the firewall. He said, no. I'm not talking about the firewall that you are referring to up front. I'm talking about the firewall that was between the trunk area and the rear passenger area, which had a back seat delete. So that cardboard that was back there originally had to be replaced with 16-gauge steel plate. And he also said, now don't forget that above that is a package shelf that has holes where the speakers could have been, and that has to be steel plated with the same style plate. And then he said, another thing he said, remember this, that they were put down with sheet metal screws and not pop rivets. And I said, what's wrong with pop rivets? Well, they were not made yet. So they didn't come till later on. So those kind of things, and also the clamps. We can go around and probably see it better on the other side. I asked him about. I had looked at picture of the cars on the track in photographs and also videos, and I noticed this area in the upper part of the doors that
go around this way. Maybe
something that looked different, and I blew it up and then took a picture of it. I showed the directions. I said, "What is this?" "Oh, those are the safety clamps. That was mandatory." He said, "If you did not have that, you were not going on the track."
So they clamped the doors shut.
So the door is clamped to the B pillar and to the roll bar, and so there's all that way. If you flip the car, and they also have another latch toward the bottom of the door that secures the lower portion of the door, and Jim, you can probably see it if you point it down there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that there was a double latch, and you can see looking across to the other side, you see the hardware there. And he gave me all the specs on the roll bar. He said the roll bar has to have a 1/2-inch plate, the cannelivers over from the frame to the as close to the body as you possibly can, and then 3/8 gusset plate welded, and the Schedule 40 2-inch roll bar, and 2 legs coming off of that. And all those things were Rex's directly.
Right. So, like you said, this is just detailed down to the.
And another thing he's probably the most proudest of is the cushion or the pillow that's sewed onto the back of the driver's side to keep you from rolling back and forth.
Oh, I see that.
Yes,
okay.
And that
keeps you from sliding across.
Right. Well, that would be maybe you might look at it as the beginning of a bucket seat.
Right.
Yeah. Because of course the door closed. That's your support for your left side, and then this would secure your right side. And he said, that's something that I come up with, and we put that in all the cars. That you'll find that in all 6 cars. But that was my invention. He told me.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah,
so the interesting thing is, okay, this door is locked at the bottom and bolted to the B pillar.
Right. Yeah.
If something happened, you got in an accident, the driver's side was damaged, it's going to be difficult to get you out the passenger side of the car.
Either way, they were also bolted in, but you roll down the window and you crawl out the window.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can show. Actually, there's that. I'm interested in that latch on the other side.
Right. Because you could. There's the glass in the door will allow you to roll it down, even though the clamp is in place, because it has a notch.
Has a notch in the window right there.
Right. So when it's cranked full, it's got the clamp going through, and then it's still there. And
then here in the back window.
Yeah, the back windows are fixed since it's a utility sedan.
So it would be clamped here.
And here are the points where you clamp it. And at the same time, there's the lower. And there was he told me all about like the roll bar has to be bolted with certain kind of bolts, and with the tall nuts and fine thread, and the threads have to stick past the nut at least 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. Otherwise, you get turned down at the inspection going onto the track.
So like we talked about, the detail in what he was able to tell you, and like you said, you watch videos and that documentation is second to none.
Right.
I think you had mentioned the wrap on the steering wheel even.
The wrap on the steering wheel was to get a better grip. That's all that was. But then they put a little pad on top of the horn button, or possibly remove. That's your original airbag. Because that would cushion your forehead.
And there's the pad on the seat. Wow.
And another thing that is very interesting is the fact that they had special generators, being that they were running extremely flammable. You see on here, very flammable fuel. So they ran generators that had closed end caps, so no spark could fly out the back.
Oh wow!
And to feed them air, they had what they call a blast tube, which allows air in and out to keep it cool. So they carry a special number that is in the book as to it being anti-spark generator, and it was not about. It's a 30 amp generator with the big pulleys and everything like they should, but it's mostly for safety and not to get any kind of spark igniting fumes that might happen.
And how hard was that to find?
That was so hard to find that we had to I was able to find one that had the right end caps, and then we had to manufacture from drawings. We had to have a machinist cut the housing to allow the terminals to be in the right places, because we could not find any. And it has the original Fenton cast iron headers, which is something that I found about 25 years ago up in Georgia. And also they got to build headers coming off of that, long tube headers, which Rex told me to get a model of Fireball Roberts' car, and it had a very detailed, picture. Not a picture; it was a model. So
Right.
you can flip it over and see exactly how they ran those secondary headers.
Wow.
And that's what we did. And so there's without Rex's input.
And that is how. When did the fuel injection come out?
In 1957.
Okay, so this was one of the first. This was very early fuel injection.
Yeah, this is the second design. This is a high performance second design, because the first design was problematic. The 4360 unit. This is a 4520 unit, and it's manufactured in January of 57. So it would be correct for the car. It's built by a professional fuel injection builder, John D. Gregory, and he went through it, and it's calibrated for a higher horse than the 283 that was posted, because in all honesty, these engines, they put out more horsepower than the 283 that's posted on the
Right, yeah, I'm sure.
They just wanted to make sure that it would beat anything on the track. So they upped the compression to 11 to 1, whereas the 283 horse cars are 10.5. So that's how they got that little extra oomph.
Now they only ran 1 year?
They would run it's a matter of just the 2 months or so.
2 months. And they were too fast? Is that basically with the fuel injection?
We got a protest from Chrysler and Ford, and saying that, well, this is not a fair game, because you have a technology that is not available to us. And so actually NASCAR decided to go along with that and ban the fuel injection. So with that, Chevrolet said, no, this is just no need for us to continue this, because it's all about promoting the fuel injection. And they just scrapped the program.
Wow.
And the guys that went on, including Rex, they put carburetors on there. Some put dual carburation on there, and they went on doing very well. Rex told me he didn't start winning with this car until it was his. He partnered with the Clemens brothers, which was a established race team, and Rex said we could go to tracks that we know well.
Right.
Before Chevrolet dictated the tracks that we raced on, and most of those tracks were tracks I had never been on before. I knew nothing about it. So after it was our car. We did the different things to it, and he said none of the car, no matter what anybody says, nobody in their right mind would have thought about hanging onto a car that was all beat up for one thing. It did not have the original fuel injection equipment. It was, and now we're getting cars from the early '60s that have more horsepower, better braking, and all around better cars in many ways. So that we couldn't wait to get our hands on the new technology, and to think that somebody might say, well, these will be worth a lot of money.
No, back then, who would have known?
That's not how we thought back then. So that's why there isn't any. But Rex was in charge of the frame modification. So before I did the body, I did all the frame work, and I went over with all that with him personally. And as I told him, hey Rex, here's one thing I want you to do for me, and be very honest. If you see something on this frame,
right, tell me,
that is not exactly like you did it, don't hesitate to tell me now. we can tweak it now, but
sure,
we don't do that after the body is on.
Right.
And he said, I'm looking at this, and I can not see anything that is not the way we do it. This could not have happened without
him.
Yeah. So,
well, and I also, on the video, I will post down below. I'll post the website for the car, and I've watched the videos. Rex has seen the car. You took it up. He saw it and actually took a ride in it at what speedway was?
That was the Bowman Gray Stadium at Winston-Salem.
Right.
And incidentally, we were so lucky. We went up there to show the car to Rex and get his blessing when the car was done. And that's all we were going to do. And as we're going up 95, we're getting calls from different people, and they want us to stop by the museum in Morrisville, and they want to look at the car. They knew it was heading up that way. So we did that, and we unloaded there. They took pictures, and then we got a call from the people that ran the Bowman Gray Stadium, And they said the Bowman Gray Stadium has been closed for a whole year because of COVID.
Okay, right.
Now, but we are going to give you, this is a Saturday, we're going to give you, we were going up on Friday, so the next day we're going to give you the stadium all for yourself, and we're going to invite Rex's friends over, and you bring him over, and we're going to make a day of it. So they opened that thing up just for us, and we spent the whole day there. And he had a lot of his friends from different places, from Augusta, Georgia.
Wow.
They came, and they came from Charlotte and Mooresville and different places just to be there. So it was a phenomenal.
Yeah, we'll post the link to that. I know there's some videos out on YouTube. It's very interesting to see the car going around the track and seeing Rex see the car at his house.
And this, at the end of the day, when we took Rex home, it was kind of getting late. And I told Rex when I said goodbye to him, I said, "You gotta be just totally, totally beat." He said, "You know what? This has probably been one of the best days, better days of my life, because you have no idea. I've been here cooped up for over a year, and nobody comes.
Oh, with the COVID situation, yeah.
COVID, and for you guys to come here and take me.
Oh, I'm sure he was so happy about that.
Meeting all my friends and making a day of it, it's a wonderful thing.
Very cool.
And we are very proud and just honored to be able to do this.
Sure,
for
sure.
A legend, which he can never say it too many times. But if it wasn't for Rex, this car would not be the car.
That's right. That's right.
And then there's no, and I always say, if somebody has doubts, if that's how they did it, I said, well, I guess you just have to ask the Rex about it.
He would know better than anybody.
Yeah. And incidentally, this sticker, which says NASCAR 57, that's your certification sticker, which changed every year.
Okay.
Yeah, so that means the car
it was certified.
Certified for that calendar year.
Nice.
And all the stickers are made exactly the way they were. They were made by people up in Charlotte, and the signage is all hand painted by a artist here in Sarasota that does the mural. And,
right. So the numbers on the door and
the numbers
and the name, yeah.
And the Nolly Chevrolet.
The Nolly Chevrolet is all hand painted,
just like it would have been back in the day. And but maybe someday that's probably what it needs to be, in a place where it gets attention. Or preferably place that is close to Rex's stomping grounds.
Right, that would make sense.
So who knows? But
well, that's an awesome story, and we're glad to get to see it and learn all the details about it, Henry. We appreciate you giving us the details, and we'll probably be back and see you because you have some other toys here that we're going to look at. But we wanted to come and get the Black Widow on film today without anybody around it. So this is it's a beautiful car. It's a beautiful day, and can't say much more about that.